Hello, welcome to episode number 11 of Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classes slash non-class. I'll say the episode first and I'll say the episode name. Or you know I'm going to review, okay? This is the conclusion to the Brand New Day trilogy of books. Now the story still continues, the Brand New Day title gets removed. Now reviewing Spider-Man Brand New Day Volume 3. Which is actually a bit of a... it's not exactly as thick as the other books, because this book only contains issues 559 to 563 of Amazing Spider-Man. Once again read by Bob Gale, which I don't know why he stayed on the title of this, and Dan Slott briefly. In this book, Mary Jane comes back. Yes. And they introduce a new villain called Screwball. Let's see if I can get a full picture of her. Here she is. Screwball. I think she was also briefly a member of the Sinister Six, maybe. I'm not really sure. But, yeah. She's a weird villain. She was finished very quickly after a brief fight with Spider-Man. The artwork, I actually think this is much better artwork than the last book. Well, second part of the book, anyways. This is okay artwork. I have no problem with this. Still Daniel Bennett. Now, it does not really wrap up the whole Spider-Tracer murders. The arc sometimes get a little weird in places, but introduces this ridiculous one-shot villain known as the Paper Doll. I don't like this villain, or villainess. Here's somewhat of a full-fledged... you can barely see her, okay? It's like they were begging to introduce a new villain in each one of these things. Menace, I had no problem with. Menace was actually a really good villain. Freak, one shot. I think the reason why they bring back Freak in the other one is because they were, how should we say, not good. Maybe you should bring back Scourge to the end of the world so you can kill off these characters like he did back in the 80s. Yeah, that will solve a lot of problems. Have Scourge kill these people. The whole point of this story is simply the Paper Doll murders. It's kind of like Detective Story, but it's really not. Jameson's finally out of the hospital. Finally. For the first time since the beginning of this, Jameson is out of the hospital. He's not in the hospital. After this, I don't think he shows up again for a while. Betty Brant and Robbie Robertson does show up in the book, yes. But they don't do very much. They're just reduced to background roles now, or occasional cameos. But this page I do like. The return of Mary Jane Watson for the first time since One More Day. Talk about that later. Okay. Paper Doll Killer goes around killing people. They introduce Mary Jane's new boyfriend. Why am I selling not exclusive activist? Because the boyfriend's a jerk. Once again, the story is somewhat boring. The villain is boring. The only thing good about this is you see Richard and Mary Jane Watson. The part of Mary Jane Watson's fighting is not much of a problem, but the overall story is completely boring and the characters get completely wasted in here. Also, this kind of hints the future relationship, which happens in the book. Of course, Bennett fires him, which I'm not surprised with. Mary Jane is seen again at the end. She meets Sarah Earhart. Of course, Mary Jane is a model. Here's back to the original artwork. This is actually okay artwork. Yeah, it goes well from Marvel Now magazine. Introduces much more villains. I do like the fact the villains are actually in here. Basher, really, the Basher. And a full... this part of the story I do like. Full villains. Villains I recognize. I don't recognize the girl with the spikes on her neck, but I recognize a lot of these people. 662. 562 was a really good issue. Finally move away from the Paper Doll crap. Screwball showing up again. And these next two issues were much better. Much better. I think they actually improved with these things. Alright? Yeah. I was very happy with this. The story finally did improve. Alright? Now, there are some things to do kind of bring back. One is the coffee thing, which is an old college thing I got back in the 70s. And Harry's bought the place. Now, overall, most of this book is completely boring. But not as boring as this piece of crap. This was completely boring through and through. This, mostly boring until those last 2 issues. Once those last 2 issues shows up, thank you, a much better story. You see villains show up. You see regular villains, not this paper doll villain. She was a completely terrible villain, in my opinion. Would I recommend this? Yes. But if you get this, skip over the boring story and go straight to the last 2 issues. But if you want to read the whole thing completely through, that's fine. But overall, the second story in here is a lot better than the first, because the first story is a piece of crap. Boring as all hell. So basically, you could see some light from this. Could. Alright? Could. Now, I've now finished up that. Now for a little something that you all should know. After One More Day, I was considering dropping Spider-Man. Well, after that, I was not considering picking up, just a second. I was not considering picking up the issues that are in these 3 books here at all. I was not considering this at all because One More Day just happened and they retconned the marriage. I read most of the story. I just want to read the whole. I got the trade paperback because I want to read that one story because I read most of it. I hated the book. I really did. John Michael Straczynski should be ashamed of himself for writing that particular story. And I heard something he actually wanted to keep the marriage going, but he's not the one to blame. The editor of Marvel Comics at the time, Joe frickin' Quesada. The fat, of course I may be fat as well, but at least I don't write stories that retcon good stories. Retconning the last 20 years with One More Day was completely stupid. And when it comes to One More at a Time, I'm not going to do that. You know what it is? It's a follow-up to One More Day. It just reveals what Mary Jane said, a completely worthless story that basically turns Amazing Spider-Man number 21, and they retconned it with this new story with similar artwork, and they turned the retcon story was a piece of crap. So that's my brief review on Omit. So, there are 2 stories you can easily skip over. One is One More Day. If you're getting into Spider-Man comics, you may want to check it out. But the story is utter shit. Yes, I actually said that. I said the S word. One more at a time is just as bad. But One More Day is worse. Dying Wish. What the heck was Dan Slott thinking doing that story? It was a completely pointless story. Especially the final issue. The first story was basic conclusion, Dying Wish. I like the backup stories a lot better. The first story was utter garbage. Having Peter Parker die in Doc Ock's body, just so you can have this whole Spirit Spider-Man thing. What I'm really hoping this year is Superior Spider-Man ending. After Goblin Nation, I wanted to see that series end on a high note. I want to see it end where you have, in a way, reverse Dying Wish. Once you reverse Dying Wish, the next thing you're going to do is reverse One More Day. That's the next step. But as long as Joe Quesada is working at Marvel Comics, that probably never happened. Dying Wish, that's easy. Because it's a Dan Slott story. Alright? So, for this third book, I would give it a 4 out of 5. I'll give it the extra 2 stars, mainly because of the last 2 issues. Third book was actually an improvement from the last book. First book was okay, but the only reason I took the extra star off is because it came off the heels of One More Day. The reason why the second story was boring. I gave it 2 stars because the writing was fine and the art was okay, but the story was utter boring. Alright? That's it for episode 11. Now stay tuned for episode number 12, where I review this. Be back. See you there.